Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News. We're bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining us tonight from The Independent, we have Miguel, Delaney, and from the Mail, we have Riath, Al-Samarrai. Welcome along to you both. Let's quickly run you through the Back Pages as they stand this Thursday evening, this deadline day eve. And of course, deadline day is going to dominate. As you can see here, back page of the Star. Enrique Chiesa, my goodness, it's Federico Chiesa, Enrique's dad. And he has joined Liverpool, says it's a dream come true. He's listening to You Never Walk Alone as he made his way to John Lennon Airport. Also, little mention of the league Carsley there, his first England squad, and Aston Villa back in Europe's top club competition. They'll face Harry Kane and his Bayern Munich side. Back page of The Sun, let Lee entertain you. Yeah, on Lee Carsley. Gone for some very interesting picks, including 4 uncapped players for the games against the Republic of Ireland and Finland in the UEFA Nations League. And also must get best out of all this talent. And route march as well. Cop get Jude at last. So Madrid on way in Champions League. Yes, Liverpool-Real Madrid is the real standout match, isn't it? Back page of the Express. The Eye looks like this. Yes, so here we are. Lee Carsley saying, getting the best out of all this talent. We sense there might be a change of style here after the Gareth Southgate era. And Root March, batter draws level with Cook as England's top century maker. Yes, 33 and counting for Joe Root after that 143 on day one against Sri Lanka at Lord's. Back page of the Express. Joe's ton tribute. Root hails Thorpe after his record 33rd Test century. Was an early mentor in Joe Root's career, the late Graham Thorpe. Also, new boss Carsley out to entertain, and slots Euro horror because they have been paired up against Real Madrid. Now then, back page of the Times looks like this. Gomez called up as Carsley stamps Marc. So that's Angel Gomez, who he saw early on in his career in the England youth setup. Also, Alonso reunion for Liverpool. Yes, Liverpool taking on Bayer Leverkusen in the league phase of the Champions League. And Arsenal given Sterling offer. Yes, Chelsea are trying to find an exit route for Raheem Sterling. And of course, time is ticking away. Yes, plenty to go at tonight with the Miguel and with Riath. Good evening, chaps. OK, well, let's start off then with transfers. We've got to really start there. And let's start off with Federico Chiesa. And Miguel, I'm going to come to you on this one because it is taken Liverpool a while to get business done in this deal. Very, very quiet, definitely so. But in terms of this deal, it's obviously a low transfer fee. He's had that injury issues when he was over at Juventus in the last couple of years. But Arne Slot seemed very, very positive when talking about this player and what he can add to the Liverpool squad. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I think it's actually a very modern Liverpool deal in that sense. And as you mentioned there, he's had his injury issues. Now, that has meant that Liverpool have essentially got a player for around €15 million or £12 million, who 3 years ago was being talked of for potentially going for 100 million. He obviously needs a bit of resurgence, but that is some often kind of clever recruitment when you can get players that have that sort of ceiling at this sort of price, because there is untapped potential there. Now, one of the reasons other clubs have been interesting is because of his profile as forward, where he is maybe more direct than a lot of modern clubs look at. But of course, that also has fit with what Liverpool wants. And I think that also influenced their thinking as well. And it gives Slot, who I suppose his football is seen as much closer to Pep Guardiola's than Jurgen Klopp's, but it also gives him something that is more reminiscent of Klopp's style, and Liverpool another game breaker. And I do think it's a clever deal. On calling him Enrico, so I had the same issue. Even in Euro 2020, I repeatedly wrote his name because, of course, as another child in the 90s, more familiar with his dad, especially on the old Championship manager. But I think he's got the potential to surpass him. And let's not forget as well, that Euro 2020 he was the standout player. That's something that really shouldn't be overlooked. So to get someone like that for €15 million is it's good business.
Yeah, on that, seeing him at Championship manager, I guess, for those fantasy league players, Riath, is this one of those sort of tempting, do you know what? Actually, this could be one of those that has got that outsized impact that you can see him really having an impact at Liverpool. But I did mention that injury record. Do you think that is going to be of a concern?
I think it's the only plausible explanation for the transfer fee. to be honest. Again, what Miguel's saying there's spot on. We all watched him 3 years ago, and certainly that's when Klopp's interest in him was pretty pronounced as well. Let's not forget. This was a hell of a player. Obviously, the cruciate ligament injury. There's no factoring how a player comes back from that. He played a lot of games last season, had a lot of muscular difficulties, different muscles as well. So you do start to ask that question: is there a chronic problem there? Is that something that could be that could be resolved? Is that going to be problematic? But at 12.5 million for the quality of player we know that he is, 26 years old, it feels like an absolute steal. Now, whether or not he has that massive impact, I don't know. That's a really strong Liverpool front three. Does he walk into that? I'm not sure he goes into it immediately. It's going to be one of those where Onslaught's going to have to work him in gradually. I would suspect. But looking at it, this outside of Gundogan going to Man City, this feels like the deal of the window for me. Currently, you can end up looking like a forward predictions like that, quite obviously, as we're all prone to do from time to time. But this looks like a really exciting deal.
Yeah, and given, I mean, we'll talk about it later, but the Champions League draw and having 2 more games in this opening phase, that Liverpool are obviously involved in that. His experience, despite his still in his mid-20s, as you say. I just wonder, Miguel, when you look at Liverpool, I suppose Arne Slot has been very selective. And I guess that's part of the reason why he was recruited, because he plays similar football to Jurgen Klopp. And therefore, well, give him the same squad. You shouldn't need to tweak it too much. But do you think they should have done more, or you think actually Liverpool fans are quite content with these 2 signings?
Well, it's interesting, I suppose, the nature of the modern transfer window. It's almost become a kind of a side industry to the game, or industry in its own right. And as we know, given social media power, so much of it, that can create a lot of noise when clubs do business. It has certainly been a theme of Liverpool summer. But from everything I've heard from within, and I suppose this is reflected by how steady they've been with their business, they seem pretty content with the squad. They only want to make moves for players they feel will properly elevate it, which is why Zubimendi was such an obvious and so far only pick at number 6. And Chiesa is similar in that sense. Also, it's the other side to this deal, I think. There's no real downside to it. If it doesn't work out, but it's not like they've spent a huge amount of their budget. But I think one of the more interesting things, I've written this for the Independent throughout the window, that Slot is willing to have a good long look now at how his attack works, and is open to maybe changing the profile of it. And of course, an issue there is, Salah's contract. There's a few other issues like that at Liverpool. But I think that's one reason why they haven't acted so much, because Slot is still essentially assessing everything. What is a squad that, okay, so it's far from complete, but it's pretty well stocked and substantial.
Let's talk a couple of other transfers, and in particular one which could well dominate deadline day, and it's the exit of Raheem Sterling from Chelsea. This is the back page of the Times. You can see it on the right-hand side. Arsenal given Sterling offer. I know, Miguel, you were across this story as well. But Riath, let me come to you. I mean, how does this reflect on Chelsea right now? Because we know about the United links with Sancho as well, and now it's Arsenal who supposedly have been offered Raheem Sterling. I think it's that element which is perhaps the most telling, isn't it?
Yeah, look, I first and foremost just hope Raheem Sterling is able to find a way for this move to go ahead. It looks like he's going to have to take a cut on his wages to force it through, but he needs to be playing football. He's 29 years old. There's yet another England squad that's come out today which doesn't feature Raheem Sterling. It's plainly obvious to everyone he needs to get moving in his career again. He needs to go somewhere he's wanted. He's got a good relationship with Arteta from the time at Man City. So let's see how that plays out. I do just to reiterate, I want that to happen. We all love watching Raheem Sterling play when he's at his best. He's had a miserable time at Chelsea. I think we can all be quite blunt about that. Does it reflect on Chelsea? I think that ship sailed a while ago. It's a chaotic club. We'll give Maresca plenty of time to show how he can kind of navigate the environment that he finds there. I'm not necessarily convinced that he's handled this particular transfer scenario in the most sensible manner publicly. I think sort of describing him as an important player, then downgrading it to he's not going to get any minutes here. I find that all a little bit unnecessary to play out in public, much as it does make for very good copy. But my primary thought here is it's time for Raheem Sterling to get going again.
Miguel, any extra sort of lines on this or any more information you have? I know, as I mentioned, that you were on this story as well today.
So I think it's interesting in context. Arsenal went into the summer looking for a forward. Now, they would have wanted a number 9, but only for the right deal. In fact, it's a little bit like the Declan Rice situation, and also Liverpool with their midfielder. They only want precisely the player they want, and they don't want to waste money on someone that doesn't completely fit. So that's how they moved from a number 9 to a wide forward. They would have gone for Nico Williams, I think, but he wants to stay in Spain, ultimately wants to go to Barcelona. But allied to all that, they are conscious of, after this international break, Arsenal are basically going to have a match every 3 days up until Christmas, I think it is. And that means a lot of football for Bukayo Saka amid this wider concern about how much players are overworked. So I think they would prefer to sign a backup for Saka now, or someone, that kind of Leandro Trossard style signing. Sterling does fit into that. Arteta really likes him from their time together at Manchester City, thinks he's got the right personality, obviously knows how they would play as well. They've also been offered Kingsley Coman from Bayern Munich. But yeah, as Riath talked about there's still a lot of complications to the Sterling deal because of a situation at Chelsea. I think that would need to be resolved before Arsenal move. I don't think Arsenal want to pay any sort of fee, and Sterling might even have to half his wages. And again, on top of all that, I think Arsenal are also conscious of the fact that, given how this window has been quite backlogged, it's not been a very active market because more clubs want to sell than want to buy, or clubs need to sell before they buy. I think Arsenal are going to wait and see, does anything present itself on a final day and whether they can get a better deal. As someone said to me today, we're now at a point of the window where deals that would have been 50 million 3 weeks ago, you can do them for much cheaper. And just an example of that, Brentford's price for Ivan Toney has basically dropped from 60 million to 35 million. Now, I know there were rumours today about Arsenal and Toney. I haven't heard anything on that. I think they would rather just do a wide forward, and they'll see what happens on the day. But Sterling is an option, but there is a lot to get done for that to be completed in time for tomorrow night. So it still feels maybe less than 50-50.
I wonder what the odds are for Marc Guehi to go to Newcastle. I suppose they're getting longer and longer by the hour. And if we look at the inside of the Telegraph, this exclusive by Luke Edwards and John Percy, and the kind of key element here, and the word is frustration, isn't it? Newcastle had made their position clear several days ago, insisting they would not go that high with their bid, so £70 million. Palace refused to budge, and having already sold defender Joachim Andersen to Fulham for around £30 million, they were under no pressure to do so. And also, despite being keen on the move, Guehi's not tried to force his way out of the club, something Newcastle thought he would do. And this is where they've sort of left it. As it stands, the deal's not dead, but it seems very unlikely to go through before the deadline. Riath, do you agree with that sort of take on it? They've just grown tired of negotiating with Palace. They don't seem to be making any further progress right now, Newcastle.
I do wonder how much this is a legacy of the Euros games, obviously. But if we go back to when that started, it was almost a slight murmuring discussion. Is he going to be a weak link in that defence? And he ended up playing extremely well. And now we're at a situation where Palace are wanting more than 70 million. So, and as they're more than entitled to ask for, Newcastle likewise are entitled to say, no, we don't fancy that. I like the fact that Guehi's not agitating to get the move, as Luke's made the point there in his piece, and that's certainly been the information all along. I think he'd be open to going to Newcastle, but he's not going to kick up a fuss. That reflects very well on him. It reflects well on Palace as well. That's a club that's moving in a positive direction, irrespective of what the league table down the side of the screen is saying right now. But it's. It's a critical situation there. He could have been agitating, pushing, making a noise, but Palace don't need to sell. The Andersen deal's given them that little bit of a buffer, and they seem to be quite comfortable.
And remember, he is the Crystal Palace captain, of course, as well. Thank you very much indeed for the moment, Riath and Miguel. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more of tomorrow's back pages, including this in the eye. Carsley saying England must get the best out of all this talent. Yes, he's in interim charge now, the national side. Republic of Ireland and Finland to come up in the Nations League, and he's named his first squad. We'll be reflecting on it. You're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Miguel Delaney from The Independent and the Daily Mail's Riath Al-Samarrai as well. Gents, we're going to talk England, and interim boss Lee Carsley has named his first squad. Republic of Ireland and Finland coming on the way in the Nations League. Let Lee entertain you is the headline in The Sun. Obviously, it's been a week of musical news, let's put it that way. And Carsley, obviously, Miguel has gone for some young, some uncapped players, but definitely, I suppose, does it feel like a bit of a free hit? Let's go for the jugular here. Let's play with flair. And I suppose, ultimately, is that the best way for him to maybe have a sniff of getting the job full time?
I think so. And it's an interesting one there as well, because I suppose without criticising Southgate in the way that could become easy to do, but obviously this was a theme of Southgate's era, I think Carsley's maybe more in keeping with modern approaches. And like even say Southgate's assistant, Steve Holland, who did dictate a lot of their pressing approach, say, he maybe would have been lent more towards a kind of Mourinho approach from 10 years ago necessarily than some of the football we see at the top of the club game now, whereas Carsley is closer to that. So it could be interesting given this wider debate about, finally letting England's attackers off the leash and releasing them. I think it will be different. In terms of the job itself, and as you say, a free hit, it was interesting in the daily section that came out at 10:30 with the papers. He was directly asked, did he want the job, and kind of evaded the question. And it did feel like, kind of reading his words, that it was almost kind of a pitch for the job without making a direct pitch. But now he has the chance to, I suppose, to show what he can do. He's got 6 months or so in a full Nations League group campaign to really set out what Lee Carsley's England is all about.
And Riath, just looking in the back page of the Times, Paul Joyce's piece, he names he wants his own stamp, right? And the players he's called up, Noni Madueke, Morgan Gibbs-White, Tino Livramento and Angel Gomez. And he's said that he was lucky enough to see him play against PSG in Paris, and said he was by far the best player on the pitch, even better than Lionel Messi. What do you make of this player in particular?
I like it. I mean, sort of Gomez is one of those guys where the risk is they go abroad, they disappear off the radar. He doesn't get as much coverage over here, shall we say, as he's not Jude Bellingham. We're not reading about him every day, but he's being very promising. The PSG game is the one that stands out. But he's an energetic, talented midfielder. That's what England need. Let's see how it goes. I like the fact that he has put his stamp on this squad. He's gone with 4 uncapped guys. They are guys he knows from the under-21s, so there is a degree of kind of comfort and familiarity there. It makes sense for him to do that, and I think he was quite open in saying that was his motive as well. There have also been some bold calls in there. Kyle Walker being one of them, and Rico Lewis being in. So I like the way that he's handled it. In terms of how he gets on, this is an audition. It does feel like a little bit of a free hit, but we'll see how he goes.
Let's turn our attention to the Champions League draw. New era for the competition, expanded competition, new way of deciding who plays who. Miguel, I'm sure you were watching on, your eyes glued to the telly as Ronaldo's hand hovered above the button for the supercomputer, and thank goodness it didn't come up with error 404, page not found. No, we then had a lot of different fixtures there. What did you make of the draw, the whole thing?
I mean, they sort of felt like tried to turn it into some sort of variety show. And oddly, given they're kind of making so much of this change in format, it didn't feel like it really fit that sort of show, because there was no kind of sense of tension. They just showed you a list of fixtures, and look, it was almost too quick to register the games that were actually happening. 1 or 2 you kind of pick out. Say, I mean, obviously, like 4 of the last finals are going to be repeated. But even that, because it's a new competition and like something that we haven't experienced at the top level, it's even difficult to know what's going to matter in that way. I did find one of the most curious things about the entire event was how central UEFA President Alexander Shevrin put himself to proceedings, even kind of, taking a starring role over legends who won the competition like Luis Figo. Although I did like to joke as Zlatan Ibrahimovic, to be fair. But you didn't get this from Lennart Johansson.
Yes, no, he was a different kind of figure, wasn't he? Let's look at the back page of the Star, because, of course, we've got Aston Villa back in Europe's top club competition. There we are at the bottom, Villa Land, Kane Day. I mean, look, this is going to be special for Villa, isn't it, Riath, with Harry Kane, Bayern Munich, and also, you know, a so-called, no, don't particularly like the phrase, Battle of Britain, against Celtic as well. And they've absolutely earned it under Unai Emery.
Absolutely. You know, that was, you know, I'd make him arguably the manager of the year last season. So, you know, they've got their reward. I'm a little bit like Miguel in watching that draw with a sort of slight sense of amusement done by computer, various speculation throughout the day of how this might be corrupted and hacked, and sort of, you know, can we trust what we see, as if we're not using computers every day of our life at the moment. But for Aston Villa, that's a great draw. Liverpool, Real Madrid's the one we probably all want to see. It all ends up the same way, which is to say, you know, it's you know, we'll see great matches in the Champions League, albeit this format's going to take a little bit of getting used to.
Riath, I'll just sit with you for the final story. I've got about a minute or so. Back page of the Express. Joe's ton tribute. Of course, Joe Root equalling Alistair Cook's record, 33 test tons for England. I mean, what a player. And do we sense now as well, with just the changing face of England cricket right now, he's once again finding himself and how he best fits into this England side?
Yeah, absolutely. There was a long discussion about how Joe Root would suit Baz Ball and maybe a few sort of teething problems. And he's obviously grown into it, as we know, as we probably knew he would. He is one of the greats of British sport. He is one of the true greats of English cricket as well. I think one point that's being made on the back page of the Express there as well is the tribute to Graham Thorpe, and it was a Graham Thorpe innings. It was gritty. It was his sleeves rolled up. He steered England through what would probably be described as a slightly ropey beginning to the day, and he's hit another brilliant innings, 33 hundreds. He's done it at the home of cricket. It's fantastic, and he's been a tremendous servant of the team. He's only 33 years old, so there's probably plenty more to come. Yeah, absolutely, 33 and counting. OK, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Miguel and Riath. And don't forget, we will be bringing you more tomorrow, 10:30. Make sure you stay with us here on Sky Sports News.